Hey everybody! So today we're going to talk some more about the Galactic Center. This will be about the Galactic Center, not the Super Galactic Center or anything else, just the Galactic Center. And about like some ideas about it. But I want to start this off with with the disclaimer that I am literally just fucking with astrology here. I am not claiming to be a Galactic Center expert. I rarely claim to be an expert at anything. I do have lots of astrological knowledge, but this is one area where the Galactic Center, Super Galactic Center, deep space, all that, this is one area where I really am just fucking around with ideas and fucking with astrology. So I reserve the right for any and or all of this to be found wrong later. But yeah. So I've made a lot of videos about this, done a lot of research about this. But I don't know, I mean, I know I've said a lot of different things about this. I know I've talked about it, like, I know I've talked about the GC being like a lifeline or a lifeline or a tie, or like somebody else said, an umbilical cord to another place. I definitely think that that is the case. Personally, I think that is the case. I have no way to prove this particular part. I have no way to prove this. But I do think it's the case. And I think that when you've got planets conjunct the GC, specifically the conjunctions here, though I think the other aspects, obviously, like, you know, the oppositions or the conjunctions to the galactic anticenter or the squares, or I think that they do matter, the trines, they do matter. But I do think that for the lifeline thing, or the umbilical cord thing, I do think the conjunctions are probably what matter the most. Now, I don't know if I've ever, I mean, in saying that, I don't know if I've ever come right out and said that I think the GC is spiritual in my GC videos directly that way. I feel like I have alluded to that, but I don't know if I've actually ever said it. It is definitely spiritual. I think it is. Just kind of by virtue of it feeling like it is like this lifeline or this umbilical cord to somewhere else. It does make it feel inherently spiritual. Which, if you've got planets conjunct the GC, I feel like can kind of give those planets a spiritual bend to them. Now, of course, the GC can be some difficult things too, right? You know, it's a black hole. It's gonna warp things. It's gonna distort. It's gonna, you know, it's also gonna. But I don't think that it has to necessarily go in a challenging way, though I think it certainly could. But I do think that there is like a spiritual quality to planets that happen to be conjunct the GC. Now, I think to utilize those spiritual qualities of those planets, I think you probably have to do something with those planets. You have to tap into that side of those planets. Like, it's kind of like the baseline is already there, but in order to like really do anything with it, I think you probably do have to work with that planet. This could be in all kinds of ways. This could be just understanding that planet really, really well in your chart and working with it, working it to your advantage and making sure that it's the spirituality and the change that happens to it just by virtue of being conjunct to GC is going in the way of your benefit as opposed to like your detriment. All the way over to working with planetary magic with that planet. I don't think that's a bad idea at all here in this case. To kind of, and when I say working with planetary magic in this way, I mean more like to tap into that planet from a different angle. That feels like that could be a good thing to do, as long as you made your intentions very clear as to what you were doing with that planet, you know, wanting to perhaps understand its its spiritual bend a little bit more. But I do think it is important that people that have conjunctions to the GC, specifically conjunctions, I do think it's important that they do have some kind of spiritual practice. This could be anything that feels spiritual to the person, but I do think it's important that they have this. And I would throw, I know Chiron isn't a planet, I would throw Chiron in here too. I would throw the major angles in here too. I do think that it's important when somebody has, when there's a conjunction to the GC, that there is some kind of spiritual practice involved that the person has. I feel like the spiritual practice or any, again, this could be anything that feels spiritual to the person. That could be a whole fuckload of different things for different people, you know? But I feel like having the spiritual practice of some kind might actually help the planet conjunct the GC not become warped or distorted or torn apart. It might actually, torn apart, K-fied, whatever. It might actually help it in some way for that not to happen, or for if it is warped or distorted, it is warped or distorted in a positive way. I feel like the spiritual practice though is important, and this would be very different depending on, you know, what I would recommend for somebody would really depend on you know, their whole chart, and especially what is actually conjunct the GC and where it falls in the chart, you know. But if you've got conjunctions to the GC and you don't already have some kind of spiritual practice that you do, whatever that might be, I would definitely think about it. Maybe think about integrating something like that. And I want to be careful. It can be religious. Nothing wrong with that. Leave the dogma behind. The dogma won't help you here. I don't think it will. It can be something routined, but I would leave the dogma, if you are religious and that's the sort of spiritual practice that you want to practice, that is fine. But I would definitely leave the dogma at the door, especially when working with the GC. And I say that because the GC is in Sagittarius, meaning, well, yes, in this research, we are looking at people that have conjunctions, 10 degrees applying or separating from the GC. So some of these are going to be in Capricorn. But the GC itself is in Sagittarius, and the dark side of Sagittarius energy is dogma. This is one of them. There are others, right? All signs have dark sides. But in this case, Sagittarius, one of the dark sides with Sagittarius is dogma. I would leave that shit at the door. I really would. If you're gonna do some sort of spiritual practice to get in touch with the planet conjunct the GC, I would leave the dogmatic shit behind. Keep the religion if you want to, but leave the dogmatic shit behind. Though I find oftentimes they kind of go hand in hand, unfortunately. But I wanted to throw that out there because I do think it's very, very, very important for people specifically people that have the conjunctions. Also, I wanted to mention, I know I've talked about transits to the GC a little bit. I know I've mentioned it. Sorry, my allergies are like really bad today. There's something fucking in the air. I haven't talked about, I don't think I've mentioned progressions and solar arcs. Definitely take a look at those two. Because when a planet, like in secondary progressions, when it happens to conjunct the GC in your natal chart, it might kind of it'll kind of be like, while you might not have a conjunction in your natal chart, for that period of time that the progressed planet is conjunct to your natal GC, it might feel like you do. So I would definitely check and see if you have any, like if you've been watching these videos, let's say, and you don't have any conjunctions in GC, you don't have oppositions, you don't have any, definitely check and see if you've got, because something's drawing you to want to watch them, even though they don't necessarily, you're not like a GC heavy person, say. Definitely take a look and see if you have any progressed planets that are conjunct the GC. I would definitely look and see. And I'd be curious to hear about it. Hear about if something kind of clicks for you as to why you might be interested in this. If you're not already if you already don't have planets conjunct the GC in your natal chart. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure I touched on that too. Definitely take a look at that. Even people that have, natal conjunctions to the GC, definitely check it out and see if you have any progressions conjunct the GC. Definitely an interesting thing to look at too. And important. Since while that's going on, it will kind of feel like, your natal chart is always the base, like the base model, right? Like it's always what it is, but things get lit up by progressions and by transits. Definitely check out the progressions. Definitely. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck with Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Abaturno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever the fuck people do with videos on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck with Astrology in the YouTube search bar. If you do the right thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology. And I want to throw this out there. I will be at Paranormal Playland on October 28th from 6 to midnight in San Antonio, Texas. So if you're interested in coming out, they're going to be I'm going to be there doing astrology readings. There are going to be other people doing other kinds of readings, vendors, all kinds of stuff. Come check it out if you are in the area. All right. I'll see y'all later.